Look to the horizon where the sun sinks, not merely into the dark, but into a silence so profound it screams. It is a story as old as the dust of the Nile, a tale that whispers that death is not a wall, but a door. We fear the end, the cessation of breath, and the cold of the grave. Yet this story of Osiris promises that the grave is not a prison. It is a womb. It is the promise that if the seed can rot in the darkness, it can rise again in gold. This is the myth of the first mummy, the first resurrection, and the birth of a kingdom that exists beyond the stars. Before the sands of Egypt were hardened by time, before the pyramids pierced the sky, the world was ruled by two brothers, born of the earth goddess Nut and the sky god Geb. The elder was Osiris, a being of surpassing beauty and nobility, his skin the green of growing corn, his hair the black of the rich silt left by the flood. He was the bringer of civilization. While Egypt was a land of wild nomads and cannibals, Osiris taught the people to sow wheat and to strain barley for beer. He gave them laws, he taught them to build temples, and he showed them how to mine the gold and precious stones hidden in the deserts. Beside him stood his sister wife Isis, the wise, the clever, the lady of magic, whose breath could turn aside the winds of fate. But not all things grow toward the light. Where Osiris was life and order, his younger brother Set was the desert, the storm, the chaotic rage of the tempest. Set was strong, but his heart was a knot of envy. He watched Osiris, beloved by the people, adored by the gods, and a cold fire ignited in his veins. He coveted the throne, but more than that, he coveted the destruction of beauty. Set conspired not just to rule, but to unmake. The conspiracy began in the shadow of the banquet hall. Set crafted a chest, a sarcophagus of exquisite workmanship, inlaid with gold and lapis lazuli, polished to the sheen of a dark mirror. He brought it to a feast and proclaimed a game of generosity. Whoever fit inside the chest perfectly, he swore, would gift it to them. One by one, the guests lay down, but the chest was too short for the tall, too narrow for the wide. Then Osiris lay down. As soon as his back touched the wood, the lid slammed down. The nails were driven by the hands of conspirators. Lead was poured over the seams, and the chest was cast into the Nile, the great river that was the very artery of life. Osiris drifted out of the green delta, past the marshes, and into the crushing solitude of the open sea. The world held its breath. Without the king, the waters receded, the crops withered, and a melancholy gray settled over the two lands. But Set sat on the throne, his laughter echoing like thunder across a dry sky. He did not know the tenacity of love. Isis, the enchantress, did not weep until she withered. She moved. She cut her hair, she donned the rags of a beggar, and she walked the burning earth. For 3 days and 3 nights, she wandered the marshes of the delta, guided only by the whispers of children and the flight of birds. She found the chest caught in the tangle of a tamarisk bush at Byblos, far from home. With the help of the queen of that foreign land, she retrieved the body of her husband. She brought him back to the reed beds of Egypt, to the hidden places where the jackals roam. There, she performed the greatest magic the world had ever known. She wove words of power, spells that could force the sun to stand still in the west. She turned herself into a kite, a bird of prey, and with the beating of her wings, she breathed life back into the still lungs of Osiris. He stirred, his chest rose and fell, but he was changed. He was no longer the king of the living. He was heavy, cold, similar to a bridge between worlds. But the chaos of Set is relentless. While Isis was away gathering herbs to complete the spell, Set found them. He did not merely kill this time. He sought to obliterate. He flew into a rage, hacking and tearing at the body of his brother. He scattered the pieces, 14 pieces of the God King were thrown across the length of Egypt. The heart went here, the leg there, the eyes yonder. It was an act of ultimate desecration, an attempt to ensure that Osiris could never be whole again. Set thought he had won. He thought that if the body is scattered, the soul is lost. But he underestimated the goddess. Isis was joined by her sister Nephthys, the wife of Set, who had abandoned the chaos to stand with order. Together, they became the mourners in white, the wailers of the edge of the desert. They scoured the nation. They did not find everything. The phallus of Osiris was swallowed by a Nile catfish. Lost the depths, but they found the rest. With the help of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming, they bandaged the linen. They wrapped the torn flesh in the white cloth of preservation. They invented the art of mummification, turning a mutilated corpse into an eternal vessel of gold and resin. It was in the Hall of Judgment that the final destiny was sealed. Osiris, now whole in his wrappings, stood not as a plaintiff, but as the judge. The gods convened to decide who would rule. Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris, the falcon-headed avenger, stepped forward to claim the throne of the living. He fought Set in combat, and though Horus lost an eye, the eye of Horus, a symbol of wholeness and healing to Set, was defeated. The tribunal of the gods, led by the creator Adam, declared justice. Set was given the desert and the storms, but Horus was given the black land, the fertile soil of Egypt. And Osiris? Osiris could not return to the throne of the living, for he had tasted death. But his reward was far greater. He ascended. He passed through the Duat, the dark underworld, and took his seat upon the throne of the West. He became the king of the dead, the lord of eternity. To the ancient Egyptians, this was not merely a ghost story. It was the blueprint for survival. Their religion was not about an escape from the world, but about the preservation of the self. The Nile flooded, the land died, the land was reborn. This was the rhythm of Osiris. When they harvested the grain, they knew they were cutting the body of the god, and when they ate of the bread made from that grain, they partook of his eternal life. The myth taught them that order, Ma'at, is fragile and constantly threatened by the forces of chaos, but it can always be restored through vigilance and justice. More than that, it gave them the formula for immortality. When a pharaoh died, he was not merely buried. He was Osirified. He was mummified in the exact manner of the god, his limbs wrapped, his face masked with gold, his mouth ritually open to speak the spells of the afterlife. They believed that if the body was preserved, and if the heart was light enough, if the deceased could stand before Osiris in the Hall of Two Truths and declare, "I have not committed sin, I have not robbed, I have not killed," then they, too, would inherit the eternal fields of the West. They would plow, they would sow, and they would feast forever, just as Osiris did. We still see the shadow of Osiris today, not just in the museums of Cairo or the Hollywood depictions of mummies, but in our own deep-seated hope. We see him in the strange desire we have to preserve the bodies of those we love, to mark their graves with stone, to keep their memory alive against the eroding winds of time. The myth asks us to accept the Set within USA, the